Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Easy Does It, a podcast created specifically for the amazing members of the MJ team. Rob and I are excited to be back with you. We have a great episode for you today. It is our last episode of 2024. It's a guest host episode. I'm so proud of us. 1 whole year of Easy Does It.
I know. We were just in a meeting yesterday, departmental meeting, and Brandon was up there and going through the list of all the accomplishments of Morris-Jenkins, and then see down there at the bottom, 27 episodes. And I was like, that is a lot.
Yep.
I can believe we made it this far, but I can't believe how far we've come.
I know. Me too. Thank you. Special shout out to Corey.
Oh, yeah.
Corey keeps us running, keeps us able to put everything where it needs to go on Apple and Spotify, and to our listeners.
Yeah.
Hopefully, we're going to keep working on that next year, getting some more people listening.
Heck yeah, let's go.
Okay. So, Rob, tell the people, who do we have for them today?
All right. So for our final episode of 2024, who better than our president, Brandon Anderson, up in the house, chilling with us.
Yeah, see, this is where we would have something go.
They're clapping. They're all clapping. I see them.
Man, we're excited to have you here. I know we've had quite a wide array of people. We've had technicians, plumbers, trainers, directors, and we're really excited to have you here. Spend a little bit of time with the group, and we've got some good questions for you.
Well, I'm ready.
All right, let's do it. So, of course, we have to start it off right. Good old Would You Rather. I was scouring the internet trying to find something, and I feel like this will be a good one. This will probably fit up right your alley and my wife's alley. But would you rather be hunted by a serial killer or by the police for a crime that you didn't commit?
A serial killer?
That's what I said.
No. I think that's out.
That one's out?
Yeah. I mean, just because I'm being hunted by the police doesn't mean, here comes my high seat, doesn't mean that I can't, when they find me, we can get to the bottom of this situation.
I don't know. They're pretty convinced that you did it.
You didn't say that in your sentence.
You hadn't seen all the movies where the innocent person is accused of a crime and then they have to prove their innocence. The whole movie's about them trying to get away from the cops but do it the right way and clear their name.
I'm not. Serial killers are another breed of people. I'm going to say absolutely not to that one.
Yeah, tell me a movie where they got away from the serial killer.
I feel like it's every movie. The bad guy's chasing the person down.
Yeah, but I wouldn't be the main character. That would be my luck. I'm like the dude that's on the side. You know what I mean? I'm the first one that's killed off. So I'll take the ladder with Meredith here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
You're taking serial killer?
I feel like if I'm hunted by the police, it's so much work to try to convince the police that you did the right thing. I just feel like if a serial killer came after me,
Should I duke it out?
Yeah, I'm just gonna go straight for the throat.
Oh.
I'll walk down a dark alley acting like I don't know what I'm doing and just wait for them to jump out. Mm-hmm. And then surprise. You didn't know I knew you were there.
With them moves, I don't think you're getting away.
Brandon, you've seen my moves. You've seen the moves. Yeah, I don't know. Well, I think there was a new movie that was supposed to come out, and the whole movie was, instead of it being filmed around the protagonist, the good person, not knowing where they are, it's actually through the eyes of the killer. Mm-hmm. So the whole movie, which isn't very common, you normally see it's the other way around, but it was supposed to be where you follow the serial killer around, and it's all through their eyes versus the other way around. So I think that would be kind of interesting.
Yeah, I will say I am secretly, but not secretly, interested in how the minds of people like that work.
Oh, I've watched every documentary you can imagine.
Yeah.
Ted Bundy.
Yeah.
Jeffrey Dahmer. All of them. Me too. I'm intrigued on the human brain as far as like how people can, even think of doing something like that.
Yeah.
I always feel like, I know that they do a lot of studies, and maybe you've seen it, but what similarities are there? I know that they have like common behaviors maybe when they were younger, but like what's the circumstances that somebody is like that? Like, what have you seen on those documentaries that they talked about that?
Nope.
They haven't figured it out yet.
I mean, not that I've seen.
Yeah. Mm-mm. I need to call Susie because I feel like she's watched every single stinking one of them. Brandon, I go home at night, and maybe Jamie does this too, but I go home at night and we eat dinner and all the things, and then it's time for bed, and Susie goes over there and lays down, and her little bed comes up, and she sits there and turns it on, and every night religiously it's
What do you mean
crime
her
shows
bed
and
comes
serial.
up?
The bed, she's got the
Y'all
reclining
have
bed.
the reclining bed?
Oh yeah, sit it up, pull it back down. There's a whole thing with that bed.
It must be easy to get your Velcro shoes off with that.
You stop it.
Getting in that bed.
Well, the worst part was the lady that was like selling the bed to us, because we're like, we want one where we can sit up. She's like, well, you need to get the big mattress, like the one mattress, and you both can sit up at the same time. And I'm like, I don't want that, because I know that she's going to lift it up every night, and I go to bed at a different time than her. I go first. She's like, no, you're not going to want this. And I'm like, I don't agree with that. She goes, just try it. I'm like, I'll try the other one, and if I feel like it's different, then I'll come back. And she's like, that's fine. Never went back. Mm-hmm. The amount of nights that she sits up and watches the shows and I'm flat on the bed, I'm like, there's no way.
Is this like Dateline? What's she watching?
Dateline, Unsolved Mysteries.
Oh.
She like all of the crime shows that are out there. She's watching all those. I don't know.
I feel like I can listen to them in a podcast, but seeing them on TV I can't. I wouldn't be able to sleep, I don't think. But I am still very interested. Like, I want to know. Yeah. But I kind of don't want to know.
I typically fall asleep to Below Deck or Real Housewives. And I don't watch either.
Do you y'all have the TV in the bedroom in there?
Unfortunately, yes.
Yeah. How do you go to bed with the lights and all that stuff flashing on the walls and all that? You have your little eye mask on?
No, usually after 10 or 15 minutes of it, and Jamie is tired of me purposely, like, wallering all over the bed, and she knows I'm getting aggravated, that usually I see the lights go out, and she's over on her little iPhone watching the Real Housewives.
Yeah.
You're a lucky one. My wife will keep on rolling, and I have to pull the blankets over my eyes.
Well, she has to get to the end to see what happened at the end of the Dateline or the Unsolved Mystery.
She'll start 20-25 minutes early, and then I'll roll up in there, and then I'm like, how much longer you got?
Here's a trick. Once people are in bed, they don't like getting out of bed. They just don't. Reach over, grab the remote, hit power, and sling it down the hall. It works. It works.
How many times did you have to do that before it worked out?
Well, sometimes, Jamie will come back in to turn it on, and sometimes she just goes straight to the couch if I do that. So I usually win.
I'm sure you do.
Either way, I'm going to bed.
You're one of the most persistent people I know. I usually win.
Yeah.
So, Brandon, you've worked here for a long time, and I know I've had some good experiences with you. I know Meredith has got some good experiences with you. I was trying to think, because when we had Randy come on, we kind of started a story, and we talked about a Spartan trip where he had quite an adventure out in the woods. If y'all haven't listened to it, you need to listen to that episode. But probably one of my favorite experiences that I had with you and Randy and others was we went on a camping trip, and I was trying to explain to some techs about like the Bean Boozled jelly beans. And we're riding in the truck, and we're coming back, or we're going out there, Maiden Lake.
Yep.
Very first time that I'd gone fishing with you, and you brought some catfish bait, and Brandon started feeding Randy some of these jelly beans. Have you heard the story, Meredith?
No, we were in the truck on the way down, but we had to stop. I think we stopped at a Harris Teeter or Walmart.
Yeah.
But before we got there, I had my jelly beans, and so I took some out and had them in my hand, and Mark said, I want some. So I was like, I don't like the chocolate one. So he took the chocolate, and Randy wanted licorice, and I don't like licorice. Mm-hmm. So as soon as Mark started chewing on them, it smells like old Roy's dog food, like wet dog food. So I could smell it. He was in the front seat. I could smell it immediately. You and Randy could not because you were in the back. But I hit the window lock, and we had nothing to drink in the truck, and I knew we didn't. And Randy put the pile of licorice jelly beans in his mouth, and it was all skunk spray. The entire truck and the doors, the windows were locked. He couldn't spit it out. He had nothing to drink except for we had one little bottle of moonshine. So I told him to grab the bottle and get him a drink to wash it down. And when he took that sip, his eyeballs got massive and he grabbed his throat. And when we got to Harris Teeter or Walmart, I think we had walked out of there with like 2 buggies worth of food to stay for one night because Randy was just on the shopping spree after the jelly beans and a little bit of moonshine.
He wanted anything to get the taste out of his mouth.
Oh my word! that skunk smell. I felt like there was an actual skunk in the truck because it was so strong, and this fool wouldn't roll down the window. So it's just like he's gagging. We're all like, oh, it was terrible. Well,
he tried a jelly bean later on that night.
Yes,
and he was calling the dinosaurs for a couple hours.
Okay, so I asked Randy about that. I said, was it a bar? Because there's barf, there's skunk, dog food, all that. And I said, now
molded cheese was the one he had at the campfire.
I said, Brandon gave you another jelly bean that was barf or whatever it was, and that pushed you over the edge, and you were tripped over the log and fell out in the woods and was throwing up. He goes, no. He gave me a dip pouch and said that it was a jelly bean. And I said, Randy, you couldn't tell the difference between the two of those things. He goes,
I know it was dark, but
I trusted him. And he calling the dinosaurs out in the woods.
Mm-hmm.
Have you always been, I guess this is going back to maybe, as a child or not, have you always, I don't know what you would call that. A prankster. I guess that's the word I was trying to find. But
people here at Morris-Jenkins know the answer to that one.
I'm trying to think when it started. Probably my entire life. Mm-hmm. But see, we grew up that way. Mm. You think I'm bad? My older brother is 10 times worse. We were just talking about serial killers and everything else. I remember we were sitting, we watched, which one is it? Jason with the big knife and the mask, and we watched that movie. And my middle brother went to go take a shower. And my older brother had put up a ladder to the bathroom window, and he had unlocked the bathroom window before he went to take a shower. He knew he was going to take a shower. Mm. So he climbs up the ladder, raises the window, and he just takes that big old knife and sticks it in the shower behind the shower curtain. I was on the couch still, and all I heard was screaming, and it sounded like a wrestling match going on in the bathroom. And my middle brother, Brad, he comes flying out of the bathroom, buck naked, soaking wet, flying across the living room, scared to death, because he probably wasn't 12 at the time. He slept with my parents for probably 6 months.
Oh, did he know it was him eventually? Did he know it was your brother that? I'm
assuming my parents told him. I didn't. Mm-hmm. But they're also the brothers Jason. That I fell asleep on the couch, and then you put whipped cream in your hands, tickle eyeballs, ha ha, funny. Mm-hmm. They didn't do whipped cream. They put banana pepper juice on my hands, tickled my eyelashes, and then I wake up scratching my eyes, and then I'm blind for 3 hours, pouring milk over my face. So
that's terrible.
I'm a product of my environment, as most of us are.
It was like you had to rise to the occasion, or
you had to come with one better.
Yeah.
I mean, it was if you didn't, you were just going to get picked on all the time.
Yeah, there's definitely terrible. A level of for the Jason incident. That's like a level of thought that went behind putting the ladder and all the things prior to even.
Well, I guess he probably figured out there wasn't still a serial killer running around the house because it was just there in the shower.
That's funny.
All of the pranks, and we could sit here for 2 hours and tell you the stories. Mm-hmm. And I would say 99% of the pranks, they hurt.
Oh, yeah.
Like, they physically hurt you. Mm-hmm. The pranks at our house, anyway.
Yeah. So 3 boys.
No. So we have a mixed family, blended family. My mom was married and had 3 boys, Brad, Brian, Brandon. And my stepdad had 3 kids. Well, they married, had a daughter, and then they adopted 1 kid. And we had 1 kid that lived with us till we graduated. So however many that is. 9, 10.
Yeah.
It depends on how you want to.
Family.
Yeah, it's like a Brady Bunch situation.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. I was 25 years old when I first saw a picture of my real dad. And I was at my grandmother's house in West Virginia. And we would go back up there to visit, and I'm looking at a photo album, and I start dying laughing. And I'm like, look at this idiot. I was like in this blue suede suit. I was like, why in the world were you wearing that, Brad? Which is my middle brother. And my mom came over and said, that's not Brad, that's your dad. First time I'd ever seen him.
Oh, wow.
First time he ever reached out when I was 39 years old. So the blended family, like everybody hears me call my dad, my stepdad, I call him Dad, because he married my mom when I was like 6 months old or a year, somewhere around there. Our family history and tree is about like that. Somewhere there, this amount of people, not real sure.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. A branch over here,
Yep.
a leaf over there, yep, all kinds of things coming off. Well, and I think that's interesting, which I'm sure we'll get to this at some point too, but it's interesting now how your family has evolved. You and I have talked about that before. I think that's just amazing what you guys have done there too. So I think it's, you spoke with us yesterday in the departmental meeting, and I thought that it was just really great to hear this side of you, like the person that we see today is not the person that has always, you are the person you've always been, but I think that would be something really cool for our listeners to hear. But just, we know now what happened at the house a lot. But of course, from a teacher standpoint, I wonder if you were always a reader, if you were a good student. But then also too, what brought you to MJ? How did you get here? What did you want to be when you I asked Mark that last week? Country singer.
Lord!
That's what Mark wanted to be.
I've heard him sing.
I think I'm gonna ask that question from now on, because the first answer.
Well, now that I know it, guess who's going to sing us a tune at the next department?
Oops, sorry,
or
Mark.
maybe at the breakfast. You never know.
Sorry,
Maybe
Mark.
we can go ahead and get that. We'll release this episode later.
No
I know
matter
he'll listen to it as soon as he
no
gets
matter what
released.
he's wearing at the company breakfast, he better have a cowboy hat and cowboy boots. Is all I can
I'm
do.
pretty sure you'll have one waiting for him at the stage up there.
Yeah, so I did not expect that to come from him. So I would be interested to hear those kinds of things too. Like what did you want to be when you grew up? Just more about who you are. I do, like I said, I really appreciated the fact that we were able to see a different side of you. Because I think it helps everybody kind of put together what the whole picture is.
Yep.
It helps see you as a person. You're a person just like everybody else.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, with an upbringing and struggles and, successes, all those things. So I don't know where you want to start with all those questions I just asked you, but...
Well, we can start... Well, number one, I am a person. It's funny.
Person.
I'm real. And I remember it was a Friday, and I had come in and I had wore blue jeans and probably tennis shoes or something. I don't know. It's Friday, right? So I probably had on blue jeans and tennis shoes. And I was walking down the hall, and multiple people stopped me and said, "I have never seen you in tennis shoes." And I said, "Well, I am just like everybody else here. I do not sleep in dress shoes. I don't go cut grass in dress shoes. I'm not shooting basketball in dress shoes. So I am just like everybody else. But in school, here's the funny thing. I hated reading. Comprehension was the one thing. I remember in grade school, they put me through a hearing test in sixth grade. And I had to have a colorblind test done at that time too. My blues and greens will kind of mix up. It's weird because I don't know why. When I drive down the road at night, anything that's green, I drive a diesel truck and it's green numbers of what the gas is for diesel. I couldn't tell you. It's just a green blob. That's all it is. But in daylight, I can see the number. But greens and blues. And then the comprehension, I was always good at math, I was good at science, didn't care for English, a whole lot, which had a lot of reading. And then when you actually took reading, the comprehension of it was horrible for me. It wasn't until later on in life that I realized that the comprehension for me was that if I didn't find value in it, I didn't care about it.
Yeah.
So the stories they were having me read, it wasn't that I couldn't comprehend it. It's just that my mind was wandering wherever, and it wasn't interesting to me, and I couldn't apply it. Yep. And I've been that way ever since I've been young. If it's not useful for me, it's very, very hard for it to get my attention.
I know you said that those subjects were interesting to you. Did you find that you had something when you were younger that you gravitated towards? Was it like sports, or was it something else?
No, I played sports. Basketball, baseball, football, ever since I was 5 years old through high school. So, for me, I was at school from 7 in the morning until 7:30 at night because I did dual roles, dual sports through junior high and high school. So I always had A's, no problem there. I mean, math was pretty easy, but the English and the comprehension side of it. So I was an active kid all through school.
Yep.
I've always been very competitive. I do not like sitting still. I think y'all have heard it when we went on our honeymoon. I played volleyball for 7 days. And by day 3, I had found a secret volleyball court beside the resort with all of the workers. Now, I didn't know what they were saying, and they didn't know what I was saying, but I was playing volleyball with them.
They knew what I was saying when I spiked the ball.
Yeah. So I'm not the type to sit down and, like, I got to keep moving. And for me, it's like, if I'm going to pick up on something and read, like, I want to read it quick, and I want to get it, and it's got to be useful and you know, move on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not the type to just sit and read an hour and a half of a book. It'll come in pieces.
Yeah.
I'm assuming you read mostly nonfiction. Like I can't see.
I have a book.
I know where this is going.
We went on our honeymoon. And we had a book, and I brought my book with me. Actually, I might have it at the airport, and I still have it in my office. And it was a book on history. It was probably 700 pages long. And I sit beside Jamie, and she's like, "Really? You're going to ride on the airplane and go to Mexico for a week and read about history?" I was like, "What? It's interesting to me, right? It's factual. It's something that you can learn from."
Yeah. Kind of going back to being interested in how the brain works.
Yep.
Yeah, is something that you can take away. You can take away from that. Yeah, that's. I find it interesting. You know, a lot of times people, if they have some sort of interaction with reading or comprehension or whatever it is when they're younger, you know, sometimes it causes them to shy away from doing it as they get older. But I think it's not always so much about the reading in and of itself. It's finding what it is you like to read.
It's the content.
Yeah.
And I mean, how's the public school system or any school system with so many kids really tailor it? You know what I mean? You know, Brandon doesn't like reading the whatever Mockingbird or whatever they had me read.
Yeah.
You know, he'd rather read about Abraham Lincoln.
Yep.
It's very tough, but it took me a while after I graduated and coming to work. Like, I didn't read a lot after graduation because it had ruined me from it. And I didn't know what I wanted to read at that point. You know, when people graduate or they're landing their first job, you're still trying to figure out what is it that I like. And you're not going to find it unless you actually start reading a lot of it. The only other way you're going to find it is go through 10 jobs and 10 careers and then find it later in life.
Yep.
And you really have to read and educate yourself on, okay, what is it, you know, in these professions or that I like doing.
I feel like that's the case for most people is you try those 10 jobs or maybe you don't even try that many and you just get stuck at one. It's like, well, I guess this is what it's going to be. And you just keep on working until you don't work anymore.
Yep.
I mean, that's not where anybody ideally wants to be, but that's the way it ends up a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's particularly, you know, I feel like I don't know who I was talking about this, you know, like particularly with like my dad and my parents. I feel like even more so for that generation, it was kind of like, I'm not sure that my dad wanted to do what he did for his whole life, but it was kind of like,
find a good job, work there for 30 years.
Yep. And that's exactly what he did.
Yep. My dad did the same. My dad worked 7 days a week. 7 days a week, raising however many I told you, 9 or 10. And so for me, my work ethic came a lot from that.
Yep.
My mom is a lot like me and my daughter. My daughter's very headstrong. My mom's the redhead. Very strong willpower, but if it's going to get done, like there's a way to get it done. So I had that in my mom. I saw her doing it. Very strong woman raising 10 kids, and we'd have 40 people over, you know, on the weekends. And then I saw my dad working 7 days a week. So when I first got in the workforce, I thought that's success, right?
Yeah.
Work 7 days a week and work as hard as you can.
Yep.
I found out after about 5 years that's not the only path, right? That's one path.
What did you see yourself wanting to do from that young age as a profession later on?
Country singer?
No. No, I'm a realist, Mark. My singing's not there either. No, actually, I was always interested in computers. So you got to think I graduated in 2000, high school, and my uncle was a computer programmer. So I saw him travel to Puerto Rico, Greece. He was a contractor. So I had actually graduated and went straight into computer programming. And I went to in Shelby Community College, and within a few classes, I couldn't do it. There's no way I could sit there and be on a computer, 8 to 10 hours a day. So I knew right then I couldn't do it. And about that time was when I was coming to Morris-Jenkins, and I had switched over to business management. And I knew that I wanted to be in some sort of, business management type where I could work with people and not necessarily be stuck to a computer all day. But all the way, probably from third or fourth grade, I knew that it was going to be computer programmer.
Was there something specific that cued that switch from computers to business management? Was there
College.
just college in
The
general?
classes of seeing what a computer programmer has to do. I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it to this day. I mean, y'all see me running around this place all the time, and that would demoralize me. Of being in my own bubble and not actually having the relationships and communication with people. I couldn't do it.
Yeah. I think it's interesting, thinking of that time in your life, like you hadn't been here yet. You hadn't been, with Dewey yet. So it's almost like I wonder if even then, even if you didn't know that was, I don't think everybody would have taken those few computer programmer classes and been like, no.
Well, there's always a history of everything. So just by me saying like I wanted to go do computers, but before that point, I mean, I started working when I was 14 or 15 years old. So I mean, I have done roofing, I've done siding, I've framed homes, anything on a house I've done. I've done heavy equipment operating, operating bulldozers, excavators. I've done. Obviously, HVAC is where I started after all of that. But see, I had all of those jobs that was more of that blue-collared. And I knew what it was to get in the ditch, to go with the water lines when I was doing the excavation work. And I just knew that I had to do something else besides just blue-collar. That's what I was raised in, working with their hands. And my buddy of mine, his dad owned a heating and air company. So that's how I kind of got into it. And when I got into it, I saw more of the relationship side. See, I found a blue-collared, use my hands, but I can actually get in homes and talk to people.
Yeah.
I couldn't do that on the bulldozer, and I couldn't do that in, framing and all those other jobs. So when I found that, that's whenever I went and said it's got to be more around people, and chose not the computers, not commercial work, industrial work. I knew it was residential. Something had to be residential with my hands.
Yeah, so it was like your experiences helped you kind of say, it's like this computer thing's not gonna not gonna work.
Yep.
Yeah.
And see, today I don't know if everybody is working at 15 years old. Right? How many of the teenagers we have now that truly don't start working until they graduate high school or graduate college? So where I had to, go 7-8 years of different trades or different jobs, even whenever I was in school, I'd work during the summer. I worked at a grocery store. I've been a lifeguard. I don't know if everybody's getting that experience now. So I feel like things are delayed.
Sure.
Right? Now people are figuring out when they're 30 years old, because they didn't start working until they're 21 or 22. Now I figured out what I wanted to do. I think it just happened sooner for me.
Yeah.
Because I started working earlier.
What did so you worked at this heating and air company for a little bit, and then what was your transition like coming from that company to starting here at Morris-Jenkins, and then what was your start like here at Morris-Jenkins?
Well, I mean, the first person I met was Dave Hearn. Right? He interviewed me, and I didn't know what I was getting into because he asked me 50 times if I knew that marijuana was a drug. And he kept asking me, and I said, yes, sir. And he says, you can pass it? And I said, yes, sir. And he kept looking at me, and I didn't know if I had
didn't believe you.
I didn't know if I had red eyeballs or...
Brandon, what did you look like rolling up in here?
Because it was kind of weird. I came in, Kelly Jenkins was HR at the time. And she set me up in the room, and then Dave comes in. And literally within a few minutes, the question came up. You can pass a drug test, right? And I said, yes, sir. And he asked a few questions about install experience. And he says, now, marijuana is a drug. I said, yes, sir. Ask a few more questions about heating and air, and then he says, "Are you sure you can pass a drug test?" And I'm like, "This whole interview's about a drug test." So I knew I was good. As long as I could pass a drug test, they're going to take me in.
Just want to know what kind of vibes you were giving off the whole time you were
know.
sitting there.
And then afterwards, Kelly come in and she says, "Hey, here's your drug test." And I said, "Do I need to go down there and take it now?" She said, "I just take it within a week or, whatever." That was kind of odd to me because I'd just been asked, a million times if I knew what marijuana was. And I was like, "Can I take it today?" She's like, "Well, if you can." I was like, "Well, I'll go do it today." And then when I started the first day, Dave came and told me, he said, I had literally just been through probably 7 interviews. Yeah. And even though I asked a question and asked them if they know it's a drug, they still failed.
Yeah, he's been burned.
It is, and that's our industry. Yeah. Unfortunately, it is our industry to where you're going to get, a little bit of a mixed crowd. Mm-hmm. It's not white collar. They're not coming out of college. Different upbringings. So when I started in 2006, from that day on, it is not what you see today. It was very different. We were doing my very first job. I was with Kirk Temple, and we were doing an air conditioner change out. We go over there, we tear out the outdoor unit, we tear out the evaporator coil, and he says, "Okay, let's load it up. We're coming back tomorrow." And I said, "It's like 11:30. He says, "Yeah, we'll come back tomorrow." So we were doing installs. Typically took about 2 days.
Wow. And
then probably 2 years later is whenever we started really getting into 2 a day and even 3 a day. Mm-hmm. So very different in 2006.
Yeah, I can't even fathom that now. Yeah. Like I've worked here for a while, but seeing those days, like I can't even imagine that.
We didn't have box trucks.
Yeah,
you had vans. Mm-hmm. So one of the problems was that you couldn't fit everything in a truck.
Yeah. It is. I think that happens often. This is how it is now, and this is the norm for us. And it's almost like you can't even imagine, unless you were there for it. You can't even imagine what it looked like. What it looked like before. Before we could get on and do like a Teams chat with dispatch.
Nope. Used to be pagers. Pull over and put your quarter in when you got the page. Mm-hmm. But I mean, that's kind of even what we talked about in the departmental meeting yesterday. So not only has Morris-Jenkins changed from 2006 to today, I've changed drastically from 2006, to today. Mm-hmm. And I think that's when we talk about, opportunities or, what people like to read or anything else, what they need to figure out what they want to do. It comes down to that, the different experiences, trying different things. I have tried a lot of stuff, and I've failed at a lot of stuff. But I think sometimes we see somebody today, or we see the business today, and we think that's how it's always been.
Right.
And we don't truly understand what went into getting Morris-Jenkins where it is today in 2024, but also what it took to get Brandon here in 2024. Mm-hmm.
I know that the people in the departmental meeting yesterday had the opportunity to see that classic picture of you sitting there on the table.
Don't worry, I'll put it in the show notes.
Yes. But we had the benefit of hearing part of that story, but just for our listeners on here and others, you said that you had worked for a while, and then there was a moment for you that started to shift and change some things. So what was that moment, and what did it look like, that shift that happened for you?
So it's probably going to be very similar to a lot of people listening, because whether you came from like me, where we were doing new construction and they're paying hourly, most businesses, when you're in heating and air, paying hourly new construction, there's no culture. You just come in, get your materials, go to the job site, and you come back. So you don't make a whole lot of money. I mean, literally, as soon as I came over to first of all, I didn't even know who Morris-Jenkins was. I was ready to leave, ready to quit, and I was at school, University of Phoenix, and Jamie called whenever I was getting out, and she said, you need to check out this company, Morris-Jenkins. Never heard of them. And, you go to the newspaper, you can imagine, I went to the newspaper ads is where you used to get it. And I, got the number and everything and set it up. And, so in 2006, whenever I came, I was literally double my income. And what I say most listeners you know, are coming from other companies, we pay very well here, even to this day, more than the market. And that was true in '06. So you got to think, a 23-year-old kid, which technically is not a kid, even though that we say 23-year-old kid, came from a place, you know, new construction, not making a lot of money, no direction as far as mentorship. The person I was working for was an owner, which is your typical owner that was just in business for them and the family. So when I got here and you immediately double your income was the worst thing that could have happened to me. Very worst. Because I was making half before that. That's the size of the person I was. So to get double the income, I wasn't prepared for it. Wasn't prepared for it, made the wrong decisions, got in bad debt. I really, the awakening moment for me was the money. And I know everybody says everything's not about money, but really what it was for me is that look at the amount of money coming in and I can't control it. Mm-hmm. That I'm getting in worse shape than I was before. I was better off staying at that new construction company making less money. And when I got in such bad debt that I couldn't even really like pay things, that's whenever I said no more. And I didn't know how to fix it. The only way I knew how to fix it was to go read and to go study. And for me, that's where the reading and learning is always come into play. If I can apply it, like I'll give 150% to it. So that one change for me, really, once I saw that I can get my budgeting under control and I can actually make that money work for me, it just kind of led to other areas of my life. Mm-hmm. You know, and that's what started really the kickoff journey for me of personal development. It did start with money because that's typically what happens. Typically, we will get a job, you get a raise, or you get a different position, and people don't know how to handle that. Mm-hmm. And if they don't know how to handle it, that's the hole they get in. And if they ever get out of that hole, a lot of times it wasn't intentional, right? Something else happened that got them out of the hole. Yeah. They got a lucky break. Maybe they got come into some money, whatever. But typically that will not sustain.
Yeah. It's interesting. I feel like all these pieces are falling into place for me now because now it's like we've had conversations about how to help people personally grow, whatever, and I feel like a lot of times it comes back to helping people with their financial independence.
It is.
And so now I'm like, well, I'll be daggone. So because it's like, and of course in my mind, I kind of maybe always thought that you were just good with you. That was just you were just good with money.
I was terrible. So when me and Jamie first got married, I don't remember the timeline as far. I remember when we got married. So before y'all start cracking jokes, I'm saying that I don't remember the timeline that Jamie actually took care of all of the money. The first few years, maybe 2. And I blame it all on her because she didn't keep it right. No, I was just spending it all. We were spending it all, and we didn't have a good grasp on it. She was a budgeter and, has the basics of it. Mm-hmm.
Were you guys married when you were working here? Like, at the beginning when you said you first got here?
We married in August of 07.
07, okay.
So, it's probably 08, I guess, whenever we switched, who was doing the budgeting to me. But see, yesterday I was talking to somebody after the departmental meeting, and I was telling them this story, is that the person said, well, I used to do the money, and I gave it up to my spouse, and they do it. Well, Jamie gave it over to me, and I took it, but you can't stop there. Not only did I learn about the budgeting, then I started seeing what we're paying in taxes. Well, now I need to go learn taxes to make sure that I'm getting my taxes done correctly, right? It just unraveled from there. Then I started learning more and more about investing, what to do with your money. It wasn't just budgeting my checking account. And sometimes when we just give it away to somebody, we're losing that opportunity to truly learn.
Right.
And that once I got that piece down, like I could budget, you don't have the stresses of that. It allowed me to work on other stuff.
What do you think was, so obviously we know you're not still a HVAC installer.
Have you seen my office chair? I have duct tape all over it. I'm still an HVAC installer.
Still making it work.
Yeah.
Brandon, let's get you a new chair. I'm fine. That's fine. We'll still get some life out of this thing.
When did you feel like, or when did this transition start to happen where you were like, okay, I'm working on myself financially. I'm sure finances probably led to something else, personal development wise. What did that look like? Kind of like, okay, I got my finances together. I'm working as an installer. What did that look like? The journey to, I guess, where you are now.
So I was in not major debt. But I think that for me, whenever you're in debt, if you're making that amount of money living paycheck to paycheck, you're in debt. I don't care if it's like you're missing bills or whatever else, but if you're stretched that thin and you're making a good wage, you obviously have more obligations than what you need. Mm-hmm. So I don't want to make it sound like we were massively in debt because I was still only 23 years of age, right? I don't have a whole lot of stuff that I could buy at the time. So it was me getting that under control. It was probably like 2 years maybe after we started working here that I started working here, 08, 09, which we were going through the recession, that I started working on the financial piece. But it was 2010 that Dave Hearn, I'll never forget, walked in his office and he says, "Hey, have you ever heard of Jim Rohn?" And I said, "Nope." And he handed me the cassette tape. And since that day forward, is where my whole journey began, because that one of the key things that Jim Rohn will talk about is the economic side, right? The budgeting side and all that, and I'd already been focused on it. But the things that you hear from Jim Rohn really resonated with me because it was everything that I was blaming of why my situation was bad was my fault. It was my lack of education, my lack of putting forth the effort. I knew that my communication wasn't great then, my relationships weren't great then, but you can just blame the other people. Mm-hmm. Nothing was going to change if I didn't change. And a lot of times what happens in the relationships is that people make it work, right? I'm not going to bring it up because I know they'll get mad. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to bring this up because I can tell they're on edge. I don't want to say this because I might get a reaction. That wasn't actually making the relationship work for me. It was really avoidance. Mm-hmm. So that's when in 08, I got really, really heavy into the disc. Mm-hmm. That's when I first took the disc. So all of these kind of just kept getting layered on, right? First it started with financial independence, or the budgeting piece, and then in 08 I got into disc, and then 2010 Dave Hearn gave me the CD, actually cassette tape of Jim Rohn. Mm-hmm. And looking back, it was a lot of work, but in the moment when you're just hyper focused on just really making sure that you're doing what you should do, number one, as an adult, that's how I looked at it, is that I'm a working person. I have my own place. I have a wife. We're about to have kids. Like, it's a responsibility that I felt like that I needed to do. Mm-hmm. I really didn't have anything in my eyesight, as far as business. I wasn't aiming to go into management. I wasn't aiming to get into a position. It was literally just trying to get my life under control. And I was hearing it from Jim Rohn of really challenging my thought process. Was I really doing what I need to do every single day? And the answer was no. Y'all heard it yesterday. I'd go home and plop on the couch after work and say, "Well, I don't have time to read a book." That was my excuse. "Hey, did you read a book?"
Seinfeld.
And I would say, "No, I didn't read the book. I don't have time." Because how many times do we hear we don't have time? Mm-hmm. And when I really started looking at my time, I was fooling myself. Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, you said just a second ago that looking back at it, it's a lot of stuff. I mean, disc, finances, all of those things, it piles up. But you said it yesterday. I know Jim talked about it a lot. It's just those daily disciplines, those small daily disciplines that they do add up over time, or it's the small errors in judgment that you make every single day that add up over time. If I know that we talked about disc, we talked about finances, you can get into personal development. Mm-hmm. Are there any other things that you feel like you would offer to people of like, if people just understood this better, the world would be better, or the people would be better? What would that possibly be? Themselves.
See, I think most people have the wrong perception of personal development. What book do I need to go read? Do I need to listen to this podcast that Brandon's on? Like, you have all these outside influences. But really, for me, what my personal growth is, and I think this is the strongest form of personal development, is truly reflecting on the day, reflecting on your actions. If you can sit there and look at what you're doing right or doing wrong or what you can get better at every day, you will become a better person because you're truly applying life experiences. It's hard to read a book and say, let me go apply it. But if I come into an office and I approach something the wrong way, or I might communicate something the wrong way, or maybe I said something wrong in the meeting, or I could tell that maybe somebody didn't respond the way I wanted them to, they shut down. You have to be reflective on that and change it the next day. You're never going to get perfect, but those little bitty changes every single day will do more than any book you read.
Yeah, I did. Hopefully you won't mind me sharing this, but I did really think it was also really cool how you shared with us that you were videotaping yourself yesterday for your own personal growth, just so you could see, how did I deliver the message? Was my communication, it doesn't even have to be spot on, but did I communicate what I wanted to in the right way? I thought that was a really cool way to model for everybody that was in that room. Even I am standing up here recording myself. Do I want to watch myself back? Probably not. But it's like, it's necessary for us to see it so we can see, what do I need to fix? Even though it might be uncomfortable. I don't think most people would have put the video camera in the back just to be able to watch and self-critique almost.
Yep. And I mean, that's what it takes. You have to get out of your comfort zone.
Yeah.
You know, we can take the feedback from others all we want, but we're our most critical person. After a meeting or after a presentation, no matter what, the feedback, if somebody says, hey, try this next time, or if it was a good job, most of the times I've already ran it through my head. And I'm like, yeah, you said it was a good job, but I got 11 items that I know that I need to work on. And that's what the video is for, right? I cannot keep a memory bank of thinking, did I do this right or did I do this wrong? So it's for me to review and really go try to craft that skill. When's the last time I've truly been in front of a group? That is a muscle memory for me that I'm having to bring back, because it was probably 2020, 2021 that I was consistently in front of big groups, maybe even before that. Because after I quit running the tech meetings and stuff, I really haven't had to do that every week. So while I'm having to bring that muscle memory back, I'm not naive to think that I have areas that I need to improve, and that's why you need to record.
What did it feel like hopping up there again?
I love it.
Yeah?
Yeah. Casey texted me and she asked what the topic was going to be and asked if I was winging it. Because a lot of you hear me that I'll wing it.
Oh, yeah.
Well, see, and it's not necessarily winging it, because if you give me a topic, whether it's fundamentals, personal development, anything that's going on here at Morris-Jenkins for 20 years, like, I'm passionate about it. Right? I truly have lived these things. I don't need to go sit for a couple hours and put it on paper, because I can tell you, at least from my experience, what personal development helped me and how I did it, but then I can also, talk about the fundamentals. Now, do I have to put prep work into it? Yeah, you got to get your thoughts together, but it's not a new subject for me.
Yeah.
So a lot of times when I'm getting asked to come into a meeting or talk about, something with the CSRs or techs, all the years of just sitting here and reading and perfecting and reading and perfecting and reading and perfecting, I don't need as much prep work. But if you gave me something that was not in my wheelhouse, I would have to be sitting right there fully prepared, taking hours to actually prepare for it. And when I say I'm winging it, that just means that I'm comfortable. That if it gets off track, if somebody asks me a question, I can abandon the whole PowerPoint and we can just talk for an hour if we need to.
Yeah.
And that's what it means for me when I'm winging it. It just means that I'm more comfortable with the topic.
Yeah. I read or heard something. I was listening to a podcast this morning where it was Mel Robbins. She was talking about how it's not necessarily confidence, it's competence. So you are so competent in some of those areas that sometimes people can probably, and you are confident in that area because of the competence. I've done it so many times. I've taken action on those things. I've been in them so many times that now I can talk about them It's no different than getting up in front of a room and teaching a class. I've done that so many times now that I've had lots of reps.
Yep.
I don't have to think about being up in front of a class anymore because I know how to do that.
Yep.
Something that you said too that I thought was interesting, kind of tying back to the Jim Rohn thing, is I know one thing, and I'm not going to get this right word for word, but about like chasing success
versus attracting.
Yes, you attract success.
So when I'm thinking about you in your situation here, it's like you were pouring into yourself,
Yep.
which to me that's the equivalent of attracting the success that you've been able to have. I mean, I don't know what that looked like going from the roles that you've been in,
I'll tell you.
I'd love to hear that part too.
So Noah came in after the class yesterday, Art of Communication, and he wanted to talk about a few things, and this come up because I hear this quite often. I want to do more, or I want to look at a different position. See, I never even one time was considering other positions. I knew I wanted to go from install to service because I knew that my background was more install, but I also knew, just the hard work, right? There's no way I could do 30 years of the install, or at least I didn't want to.
Mm-hmm.
So that was more of the shift to service, was get that piece to make me more of a well-rounded tech. And that was it, just a shift to service was to get that more well-rounded. But whenever I was in install and when I was in service, and as I was going through trying to improve myself, it was that, like, I just need to get my stuff under control. I'm not worried about, what they're offering at work. Like, if they need me to do something, I'll help out. I'm the type, like, if you need me to come work, I'll come at midnight. I don't care if the job needs to get done. So while I was working on all that, I have never applied for a position here besides the very first day I got here. And that, to me, is the definition as far as trying to pursue it or whether you're attracting it.
Mm-hmm.
Because people will recognize if you're improving. That's what I know today. That's not what I knew then, right? Because I was just trying to get better for myself. But people will recognize when you become better, and that's whenever opportunities will come to you. You don't have to go chase them. Because a lot of times what happens is that people go chase the opportunities, but they haven't done really anything for that next opportunity, right? They haven't really thought about that next opportunity. Who do you have to become to be that next opportunity? We have titles and all that completely messed up, really from just how everybody's raised, right? Go to work, come to supervisor, get to the next level, but nobody talks about who you have to be at that next level, because it changes. It changes not only at next levels, but it changes daily of who you got to become.
Yeah, it's not. I think that's one thing because like I brought this up in Mark's episode too. That is in the education world. It's very much climb the ladder, climb the ladder, climb the ladder. It's like you're a teacher, then maybe you're a facilitator, then maybe an assistant principal, a principal, then maybe a central office job or whatever. And so that's what I thought. That's what I thought I had to do too. And I don't know if I would be here today if I had stayed in the job two jobs ago, because that matched what I was good at. And but I think it's just what we're taught. It's next position, and they're not the same skills.
Nope.
I had the right skills to be a facilitator, which is a lot like what I do here. I didn't have the skills to be an assistant principal, and I'll be the first person to admit that. I just didn't. I didn't have the tools and the skills. I could get better at them, but I was exhausted by that role in that position. And so now, in hindsight, now I see why that role was not right for me. But I think we're just conditioned to think, climb the ladder regardless of your talents, regardless of the skills that you already possess, because that's...
And most businesses are that way. It comes off time. John might have done a good job in that role, so we immediately think he's going to do good in another role. And businesses wonder why they fail sometimes when they get in that new role. And it's because that people aren't thinking about that next level. They're not thinking in the future. Jim Rohn, another one that stuck with me, was that he said that, yes, you have to live in the present, and there's way too many people that live in the past, right? If the people that constantly live in the past, and people that live in the past typically don't go very far because they can't get, through the past. So you got to live in the past a little bit, and that's where you learn. That's where you learn. That's the reflection. You got to live in today to make sure that you're doing the right things, but we got to live in the future a lot. And I'll say, for one thing on me on reading and comprehension and stuff, is that even when I'm in the road, when y'all ask me what is my 5 favorite songs or whatever your question was, and I told Mike Simons this a couple weeks ago, you can play whatever you want, because within the first 10 or 15 seconds, I don't hear it. Ever since I've been little, as far as I can remember, like, I'm constantly just thinking ahead. Okay, if I do this right now, what's going to happen next? I mean, that's my routine at night. Like, even when I'm driving home from work, the radio might be playing, but guess what's going through my head? I'm already thinking, okay, I can wear these pants tomorrow, this shirt, these shoes. So then I get home, it's laid out and it's done. I'm thinking ahead every step of the way. And that's a missing piece that I think people have. We get too stuck in today, or we get stuck in the past. So when we think about that next level of positions, it's because we don't live there in our mind. We don't think about, what do I need to do? What do I need to become? What are the skills that I need to learn? We get stuck in today.
Yeah, and then a bunch of todays. Then it's just a bunch of todays.
Bunch of todays equals 5 years, and then you look back and you're like, oh my Lord, 5 years has gone by.
And I'm not anywhere different than I was 5 years ago.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Everybody here, with Morris-Jenkins, we're always moving. We always have new things coming in, making changes. And I know anytime I go to your office or Mark's office or Adrian's office, everybody's getting stuff done. How do you balance being present in the moment and focusing on the people or the things that are right in front of you? But then also, I know for you, you're always thinking ahead to the future. How do you balance those two dichotomies, being present and also thinking about the future?
For me, they go kind of hand in hand. I mean, even right now while we're sitting here talking, we have stuff that's coming up. We got the Christmas breakfast that's coming up. We have a quarterly offsite next week. So anytime that I'm talking with somebody, I'm automatically thinking, how can I use that for something else? Right? Because even right now, I'm gaining experiences. I'm gaining knowledge. I'm gaining some things that I can take from you two, but I'm also learning of what I need to do differently. So I don't know how to really put that out as far as like how people can do it, but I know that that's what people miss, right? They're living too much in the moment and not observant of saying, I just heard something that I can probably use in a meeting tomorrow, or I like the way they presented, I can use that. It's almost like knowledge is coming in and we're not even aware of it. It's just like driving home and you have no clue how you got there. Too many times does that happen during the day. Because that's happened to all of us. Sure. I drove home the other day, and I don't know if I ran 3 red lights or 4, because it was one of those to where it's like, man, I don't remember going that last 5 miles. How many times does that happen during the day that we're unaware that so many valuable nuggets are all around us, and people miss it every day? Whether it's somebody's mannerisms, whether it's the way somebody responds, maybe it's the way that they're an active listener. We can pick up on all of that every day. And for me, from 06 until now, if you look at Dave Hearn, David Smith, Dewey, I had all these influences in my life that I was picking up on what they were doing. I also had influences in my life that said, don't do what they're doing. And that's where the observation piece, I think, that sometimes we miss. Like, if you find somebody that has a little bit success or is better at you, follow them, copy them. You're never going to be exactly like them, but you can pick up the good traits, right? Whether it's being a good listener, being a good presenter, whatever it is. And that, to me, I think is what has formed who I am today, because I was surrounded around the people that I could learn from of what to do and learn what not to do. Yeah. But I was observant of it.
Yeah. I know you, you just said it today in the operations meeting, that thinking about how many people work here that actually had experiences with Dewey. Amazing man. And I wanted to ask you, from your experience here, what was it like getting to work as much as you did with him, hand in hand with him, but then also what were some of your favorite moments with him?
Most people think that me and Dewey just talked all the time, and we didn't. Like, we really didn't. We would go to lunch. That probably didn't start till 2015. we'd go to lunch, and our conversations were kind of vague. There wasn't deep conversations. So for me, my time around Dewey was not him necessarily like questioning me or trying to, I guess, groom me. I was more observant and picking up what Dewey was doing. I was picking up how he was presenting. I was picking up what he was reading. I was seeing how he presented. So he never was really like, hey, Brandon, you should present this way, or have you thought about this? That was me being more observant. And I think what it was is that Dewey had seen that I was picking up on it. And then whenever we did go to lunch, he would usually have 1 or 2 questions. And those 1 or 2 questions would give me a week to think. You know, it was enough packed in there. So for me, it wasn't necessarily like one thing that I appreciated from Dewey. It was his consistency day in and day out. That no matter what, when I view Dewey, I could pick something up from him that I could observe and use. There was not one time, like no matter what day of the week, I could pick up something valuable from him. And that's what I mean, even here today in our organization, that still exists. People just have to pick it up and be observant. So I may not come to one person and work with them and say, I'm going to work with you for the next 5 years. Nobody came to me and said that. I was having to pick things up and read and, you know, do the hard work, because nobody's going to come along and say, hey, we're just going to turn you into somebody. It doesn't exist.
Right.
I had to become somebody different.
Was there any memorable moments that you had? Could be funny or whatever.
So as soon as I started here, I'm making, we used to get these styrofoam cups, and they got even like the big gulp size. You know, you get it like, I don't know, you see people walking around in Walmart, except for like Mark Kegels. He's got the one that he sips out of all the time. That's what I give him a hard time. He looks like an old grandma. But we had the styrofoam cups, and I had poured my cup of coffee, and I had turned around and knocked the whole thing off. And I had the big gulp cup, not the baby cup, the big gulp cup. I turned around, and as soon as it hits the ground, the only person in the break room was me and Dewey. Day 2 of me being at Morris-Jenkins. 20 ounces of coffee all over the floor. So I grabbed the napkins, I start cleaning it up, and Dewey's over at the sink, and he's pouring his cup out and washing it out. And he said, hey, at least you're cleaning it up. And he walked out. And I'm like, oh, great. First time I meet the owner, first time I meet Dewey, like I just spilled coffee all over the place. So for me, it was, that will always stick with me, because it's, you know, second day of meeting somebody, and I just spilled coffee everywhere. Thank God it didn't go on my shirt, or he would have seen me go home.
Some things haven't changed.
Yes. At least he was standing a little farther back, and it wasn't he turned around and splashed all over him, you know?
But see, even those things, like my shirt, like my stains on my shirt, I've always been that way.
That's changed.
That's changed, but I'll tell you why that's changed. At some point, you can only worry or care about so many things in your life. And as I've gotten older, my kids have gotten older, responsibilities have gotten bigger, that at some point you have to give up on something. And the things that were driving me crazy as far as things not being right, not being square, not being straight, it could be done. If I want to do it, I want to do it right. I mean, that's the thing I'll tell you. Like, I do not like leaving things halfway undone. And it got to the point where something had to go. And I think that's really when a lot of my stress or any problems that I was having was whenever I said, hey, you know what, it really doesn't matter anymore. Because those little things that I was worrying about, the spot on my shirt, a wrinkle, or maybe it could have been an employee that maybe wasn't doing something 100% the way I wanted to. I had to let all that go. And that really unlocked me to worry about other stuff.
So, yeah, I mean, it's a lot to carry around everybody's everything, you know, to have.
Well, and a lot of it was mine, right? If Rob did it one way, that was his way. But if I wanted it a certain way, the outcome was the same, but it was just a different way. And those things used to bother me. That's just because of the little bit of OCD in me. Y'all know that I used to iron my clothes before I cut grass.
Yep.
Okay.
T-shirts.
Yes, T-shirts. I don't care if it's blue jeans. You will not see me outside in wrinkled clothes.
Yeah, you're not the only one here that does that.
I think I drove by one day and saw his socks had a crease going down the front. He put his little flat socks.
So do you still iron before mowing?
No, I've gotten lazy. I throw them in the dryer and let them de-wrinkle.
Okay.
And I got my bounce spray just to make sure they come out.
Listen, that's not lazy. That's resourceful. That is much better.
You said
than
he's not the
ironing.
only one that does that. You know somebody else that does that?
Shallon irons all of her t-shirts, jeans, everything. And she hadn't let it go. I know that for a fact.
I have been that way ever since I've been little. My son is like that. If I hit the ground on a Saturday morning, I'm dressed ready to go. I don't walk around, in jogging pants or anything. Like, I'm ready to get up. I'm ready to start the day. And I've just always felt like that if I'm presented well enough for myself, I feel good. I don't. It's more for me and my image and not for other people. If I'm getting up and my stuff's done, I'm getting it ready, my clothes are laid out, my shoes are on, I don't care if it's Saturday morning at 6:30, I'm ready for the day. I cannot stand wasting a few hours on any day.
Yep.
And for me, if I'm wearing jogging pants and laying around, that to me is the enticing piece that I think a lot of people fall into.
Yeah.
If I put on my pajamas and just wake up on a Saturday morning, I'm not going to get up for a while because I don't have to. And that's when for me, I think that's why I keep doing that. It's just to resist that.
Yep. Not to fall into the trap of
It's Saturday, let me relax.
Sit around.
comfort. Yeah.
A lot of people will hear me, they'll say good morning or happy Friday, happy Tuesday, and they'll hear me say, well, it's another Monday. Because here's the thing, once you became adult, who cares if it's a Friday? Once I had a kid, I don't know what a Friday night is anyway.
Oh, heck no.
No.
So what's the point of worrying about if it's a Tuesday or a Friday, right? When you love coming to do what you do, I mean, I want to get up and come here and come to work. Whether it's a Monday, Friday, Sunday, it doesn't matter.
Yep. Okay, so I have this question, I guess, is still more about the business. And I think this is something that I've really appreciated over the past couple of departmental meetings is just this kind of vision casting and, where you see the company going. How do we get there? If we could all do one thing every day, for Morris-Jenkins, what would it be? So if you could just share with the listeners, like, what is your vision, and how do you see us getting there?
The biggest problem we have right now is that we don't have everybody working on themselves to become a better person. And where we can start is actually just being more aware when we have our interactions with our peers. We have a lot of intersections here at work, whether it's technicians and dispatch, CSRs and dispatch, whatever the intersection is that we have to understand that we're all in here together, and there's too many times that we don't leave the handoff for the next person. And what I mean by that is that, if you're going to have to hand over work or somebody's coming behind you and it's a teammate, we should leave that the best place that we can for them and the homeowner or whatever the interaction is. So number one, once we do that, I think we'll be performing at a much higher team because it's actually us working together instead of us, saying that somebody else at Morris-Jenkins is trying to do us wrong when I can promise you that's farthest from the truth. Like, why would we have departments trying to really make other departments suffer? That usually boils down to a bad process or something else. So once we get that, I think then we'll start functioning a lot better. And once you have that higher functioning team, things become easier. Things become easier because we'll start using everybody's brains. Right now, we're not using 600 brains, right? Because we got to start getting more people in here and having the conversations and getting their ideas. Once we get to the point of where we're collaborating together, we understand where we're going as far as how we need to interact with each other. And we all got to know that the number one thing that we're trying to do is make it easy for the customer, whether that's internal or external. And once we continue to do that, guys, the hardest thing in business is trying to get a business to even show up. We already do that. We already do it better than anybody else. We show up the same day, whether it's a service, whether it's install. Right now, we're fighting our own internal battles. And once we quit fighting those internal battles and we actually start focusing on only taking care of the customer and making it easy, that's where we're really going to start to expand, because that's what the community's dying for. I'm a consumer just like all of you. And everybody listens a consumer, and it is hard to do business with businesses, very hard.
Yeah.
And when everybody is on the has the mindset of all I'm going to focus on is making it easy for the customer, the best thing we can have is word of mouth. Right? We're already known as one of the easiest companies, to do business with. But we have to be the best and the easiest. And once we do that, then we'll start growing even more, expanding even more. Where I see the vision is everybody's talking about expanding the sandbox or anything else. For me, it's all opportunities. As we grow, the purpose of the departmental meeting, the purpose of growing people here, is that the only reason why I come to work, it makes me so excited, is that we're going to provide opportunities for people. Opportunities for people that want to put in the hard work, they want to, change, who they are, and it's going to give the opportunity for people to say yes to or no to. And for the people that are ready, the opportunities will be there and will flourish.
I know you said earlier something that people could focus on is themselves.
Yep.
Focusing on their personal development, focusing on what things they are maybe struggling with or what things that they have strengths in. And I know Dewey's talked about it in the past with working on your strengths and weaknesses. What's your thoughts on that as well? Same?
Oh, absolutely. Strengths and weaknesses, we all have them. Because I'm so fast-paced, and me and Mike Simons were talking about this Tuesday. I have to be very mindful whenever I'm communicating because I'm 90 miles an hour, and sometimes I'll look up in a meeting and I can see the heads turning, and I'm not given enough time to respond because I process very quickly, right? So if everybody was processing quickly on the team, it wouldn't be very good. We'd make a lot of mistakes. So we need to have all those strengths and weaknesses on the team. So where I might move too quick, we got to have somebody on the team that's going to slow us down and process it a little bit. So my weakness is moving too quick and not being a great listener. If you had all that on one team, that's not a very good team.
Yep.
And that's why you have to take strengths and weaknesses into consideration when you're building the team. Not everybody can be the same on the team. That's actually the worst team you could build. So it's really being vulnerable and understanding what am I good at and what am I bad at. Y'all saw my PowerPoint yesterday. Y'all know what I'm bad at.
It was beautiful. It was beautiful. When that little screen came up with the little ice cream cone and the little truck, I said, what the heck is that?
Hey, it's still lined up. You know how many emails I've sent and put like inserts or circles and stuff, and then y'all say it didn't line up once you sent it. Well, I don't know why it got off. It looked good before I did it.
I just thought it was funny the other day. You're like, I was just looking at my emails and I noticed there's heart emojis next to the email.
Well, I have no clue when that started. These whole reactions to emails, I'm like, what is this stuff? Well, here's what it was. I'd sent a few emails and I'm like, nobody's responding to me. I'm like, why am I not getting responses? So then I go look on my phone, and that's where I saw it, because you can't really tell on the computer, or at least I wasn't looking for it. So I'm looking at these emails, and I'm like, what the heck is this? Like, laughing faces. They laughing at my email, and then I click on it, and there was like 6 other emojis or whatever you call them.
Yeah.
Then I realized at that point I had probably 15 emails that people responded to with reactions, not words.
Yeah.
And I still don't know what all the reactions are. I have to Google them.
You gotta click and see who did what. There's a thumbs down in there somewhere.
You're right.
Well, I know what thumbs down means. But sometimes with these like smiley faces and they're smiling, their mouth's open, and I'm like, I don't know what all they mean.
No.
We can't keep up.
Shallon texted me one day. This is probably a year and a half ago. And I don't remember what it was, and I was texting her back, and I guess it was, I will look into it. And I was probably multitasking, and I text, I will look into it, hit send, and keep doing what I'm doing. And then she replies back, like, LOL, laughing, dying. And I look at my phone, and I guess when you type in look, it put the 2 eyeballs in it. And she said, I cannot believe you just used that emoji. I was like,
she screenshot that one.
I said, I didn't. I don't even know how it did it.
all the shortcut little pictures you can send and everything. My goodness. Shallon, well, both of you guys started the whole, what is it, Bitmoji or whatever?
Yeah, we were together.
Oh, my Lord. She just sent one the other day, good morning. And she sent me this long thing. And I was explaining, so in art of communication, we talked about how to be a better communicator verbally, but then also if you're sending texts and emails. And I said, you can just see who's into what her disc style is, what's important to her. And I'm like, look at this. And all the things she sent me on a Friday about art of communication for Monday. Good morning with her Bitmoji in the coffee cup. She's standing in the coffee cup. And then there was like 15 text messages all within like 4 minutes. And I'm like, oh my Lord.
Number one, make sure you get the binders from the number two.
Yes.
Oh, I thought she was going to have a stroke yesterday when we first started, when she saw the PowerPoint up there. Shallon likes it done a little bit different.
Oh, we know. Oh, we know.
Yeah. Well, it is. I mean, strengths and weaknesses.
Mm-hmm.
Well, when we think about strengths and weaknesses, but to go back to ask like where are we going, where are we heading? I mean, there's still so much more we can do here in Charlotte, and I think that's a lot of the big questions that I get a lot. Where are we going? Where are we heading? And when you look at the past 2 years, just from the economy and the way things have been, it's not an ideal time, to go look at other locations. But there's 2.8 million people in Charlotte. That's not the amount of business we're getting. Mm-hmm. So we have to get better at making it easy for the customer and making us the number one choice to book an appointment, whether it's on the web, which is where we would prefer, getting everybody going towards the web. And getting that all the time, not just whenever everybody else gets busy. Because for the years, we get a lot of business when other companies get backed up. Mm-hmm. Well, we have to be able to show Charlotte how easy we make it and how wonderful that our people are coming to the house. Because that's the thing. I think a lot of people still think that the people on the commercials or it can't be real. This is our people. Mm-hmm. Like, we hire very, very good people. And that, for me, is what we have to solve next, is truly getting to every person in Charlotte and at least giving, Morris-Jenkins a shot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think it's evident for everybody here how passionate you are about working here and the experiences you've had. I mean, we always say bleeding blue and yellow. I made the mistake of saying blue and gold one day, in case he just looks over. I'm like, I'm sorry. But what's the stuff here at Morris-Jenkins, you kind of allude to it, that you feel like you're most proud of?
Man, honestly, for me, September 5th is when I got this role. And from September 5th all the way till probably yesterday, I have done a ton of reflecting, because it's, I was already CO, like I've already gotten into some roles, and I just kind of roll with it and keep moving on. But when I got president role, I really needed to stop and think, because I need to be able to connect that with our management team, right? That my story is very unique. And when I look back on it, I still look at it and say, man, that's kind of unreal when you look back on it. But during the time, I didn't think anything about it. So, I mean, what I'm most proud of really is that looking back at all that, though, is number one, what I accomplished with it, and that the opportunity's there for somebody else. And I think that whenever I first started managing a true department in 2015, that's when I got you, Rob, and Mark, and Randy, and Mike. For me, I didn't even realize it at the time, but as hard as I was pushing y'all and questioning y'all, it was really pushing me as well. But for me, what I'm most proud of, not where I am today, but more or less is where everybody else has come. And that's what really, really drives me and motivates me to work. See, I'm the type, I'll give you anything away. I mean, look at the family I was raised in, right? I mean, it's always been give. So for me, it's not necessarily what I'm getting out of it. Where I thrive is when I see other people thriving. Mm-hmm. That means I feel like I'm doing a good job when I see other people doing well. Yeah. And it didn't matter if I was an installer. I mean, I would do what I needed to do to make sure that when I left that family, I felt like they were doing better than, after I left.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter if I did a little bit extra for their heating and air system. It doesn't matter if they needed me to go clean something out of the yard. I always tried to do something to make sure that I was leaving them better than what, it was before I got there. The only difference here is that everybody's here every day. So I get to see that day over day and year over year where people are going. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I've seen where they've come from, and I've also seen where people have missed those opportunities. And that's what kills me, is knowing that the opportunity for somebody to go from the bottom of the ranks to the top is still here. Do we truly have people that understand that? Mm-hmm. And they're saying, hey, I'm going to do something about it. Why can't that be me? Because here's the truth. It could be anybody.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't have a degree in business. I didn't complete college. I'm probably not, the person that should be sitting at that seat, because it's not normal to see somebody go 20 years through a business. And this is one of the only locations, Morris-Jenkins, that promotes that and supports it.
Mm-hmm.
We will do everything that we can to always promote within. And the only time we can do that is if we have everybody within working on themselves.
Yeah.
And the moment that people quit working on themselves, we do have to go find the people that can take care of the business.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, David Smith used to always say one of his favorite things to see is the cars in the parking lot change.
Mm-hmm.
See how people show up, like you said, and see the quality of vehicle, and people are able to take care of their families. Like, that's the best reward ever. And I feel like for you, I mean, you've always had belief in people. Like, you are able to look into people, and you see people, they have qualities that are good, and it's like, hey, I can pour into that person. I've never seen you chase after somebody of like, you always talk about pushing and pulling strings.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to chase after people, but when people come to the table and they're like, hey, I have a passion, or hey, I've been learning this, you'll pour just enough into them, and then you see if they come back. What's the kind of stuff that you look for in people, or maybe even the qualities that you're looking for in people of, hey, this is someone that I can help or grow, or hey, this is somebody that, might have the qualities to become something someday?
I think a lot of that came to me, though, is because of really personal life. My brother was an addict for 20 years. My brother passed from it. So I've had the experience of pushing somebody, pushing that string and giving a chance and saying, hey, if you do this, right, you'll get better. Or you will see a 6-week runway of somebody that's doing well, and then they relapse. It's very, very similar to what I see with personal development. And or people that want to work on themselves, or maybe want to change, because just like my brother, people that are working on themselves, it happens for a week and then they fall off, and then it may be 6 months before they get better and start reading again. So for me, when I say I'm not pushing strings or any of that, it really came from that side of it. And when I see somebody that can resist going home and turning on TV, they can resist eating the candy bar instead of the apple, they can resist all of these things that are easy, to quit working on yourself. It's so easy to go home. I said this yesterday. If you work 8 hours a day, you have 16 hours, waking hours. Or you have 8 hours awake and then 8 hours working, right? So you have 16 working hours in the day to get better.
Mm-hmm.
And if I see somebody that takes that serious, man, I will work every night with them. I'll work as many hours as I need to, because they want it and they're going to continue to do it. Too often, though, do I see somebody come in and says, it's usually after a training, usually it's after a tech talk or a lunch and learn or an MJU, they're gung-ho. They got the candy bar. They got the motivation to go do something. That was my brother. Right? Man, I haven't done anything in 2 days. I'm clean. And no matter how much hope I had for him, right, he still relapsed and still went down that road. And that's a lot in personal development for me. Mm-hmm. They come out of training, they're good, they're ready to get on the ball, to start reading, to be better. And then a week later, where did it go?
Mm-hmm.
And it's the ones that can resist that is the ones that, I will pull that string. And pulling the string means, anywhere that I go or anything that I can do for them, I will pour everything that I can. But with my brother, it got to the point where it's like, okay, now you're starting to impact, my family. Or, they've seen this too many times. I've seen this too many times. And I think that's where it came for me, is like, I'm done.
Yeah.
And that, came over to work. And it was like, when I see somebody that says, hey, I want to do it, and then they don't do it, and then they come back and they want to do it, and they do it for a week, and then they don't do it for 6 months. That was very similar to my brother. And at some point you have to say, this person's not serious. And one was extreme life or death, but But in life, and you're talking about personal development, it's the same thing. It's just usually drug out a lot longer, right? You're still going down the same road. It's just going to take you a lot longer to get to that end of the road. So for me, you have to be disciplined to do it.
Yep.
Very disciplined.
Yeah. Well, I think that's one thing, that I won't, of course, when anybody leaves a class or listens to a podcast, I want it to be like this life-altering, changing experience. And what I've recognized, and I think a lot of this, of course, as a teacher, I want every kid to succeed. I want every
child left behind.
Right, that's right. But I think one thing that I've recognized in a lot too, because is people have to take ownership of that at some point. I can't want something more than anybody sitting in the class that I'm teaching or the lunch and learner. I can't want it more than they do.
Well, Dewey used to say a lot, and this came up yesterday, people don't change that much. And I heard that 10, 12 years ago, however long ago. And probably in the past few months, as I think about it more, because I've been here almost 20 years, but there's been other people here that's been here a long time. And it is true, people don't change that much. Like, you're never going to get rid of my natural tendencies, right? I'm always going to be the person that wants to move 100 miles an hour. I'm going to be the person that maybe not a good listener because you're taking 30 seconds to think and then speak, and I'm like, I got to go. But I do believe people can change. They're just not going to change that much. And what he was meaning by, or at least how I take it now when I look at myself, people don't change that much. It's only if they want to, right? And you have to want to. That if you want to change on things, you can. And it's not changing who you are. Typically, it's not changing you at the core, but it's really changing like the qualities of you that should become better. I mean, who doesn't want to be a better communicator? Who doesn't want to have better relationships? Who wants to be able to handle conflict when it arises? They're all the things that we should want to do. But it's just too easy to say, nah, I just won't deal with it.
Yeah.
Or, better yet, it's the other person's fault. They need to change.
Yeah.
Because we hear that a lot.
That's the external blame on everybody else.
Yeah.
Well, they feel like that everybody else needs to adapt. And in all reality, it really starts, with yourself. Because you can't rely on the other people. One person has to be educated. As far as education, meaning saying being aware that I'm aware of the situation, I'm aware of the conversation, and maybe I'm going to try my approach a little differently. Because that's typically what it is. It's communication and the wrong approach.
Yeah.
So I used to always think with that quote, people don't change that much. I still think back to, childhood. Like, you see people that you knew from middle school or high school, and then you see them all these years later, and you look at them, and it's like, you're the same person. Like,
I would have been that person.
Nothing's, like, you feel like almost nothing has changed. They maybe had kids, family, jobs, life experiences, but you still see a lot of similarities to that. And I used to, when I initially heard that, I'm like, oh, well, that's what it means, is people just don't change all that much, just a little bit. But thinking about it now and looking at people that I know, looking at you, Meredith, in the time that you've been here, myself, those tiny incremental little changes over time, you can learn new skills. You can learn communication. You can learn finances, even if you're not strong in it. I know, I'm fantastic at numbers.
Oh, yeah.
Just amazing. And so, but it doesn't mean that you can't at least educate yourself to where you're better and it's not just a gaping hole.
It's not changing yourself. It's just improving yourself. Yeah. And when Dewey said that people don't change that much, when he's saying that in a departmental meeting or something, when you take the full population of people, that's accurate. Because if you take 60 people aren't changing as much as we want them to, or becoming better, right? Learning more skills. So, I mean, I agree with you. It's not that they don't change. It's just when Dewey was saying it, that is the general rule.
Yeah.
The general rule, most people don't change that much. But like I said, it's not necessarily changing your character, changing your core. You're just educating yourself, becoming better, become a better communicator. Put up a camera like I did if you're presenting, and watch it. It's not fun. I can tell you it's not fun.
Did you already watch it?
Not
watching part
no,
of it?
I haven't yet.
Yeah. Dun, dun, dun.
But I will. But I mean, I was doing that in 15, 16. I remember recording Mark, in his little binky.
Oh.
Oh, my Lord.
Yeah.
I remember Mark just sitting there like, he's recording it again. He says, I'll stand in the front of the meet, I'm talking, and I just see Brandon sitting there, and I just see a phone go up. He's like, I used to hate that, man.
As painful as it is, you have to be willing to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
Because for me, for so long, I lived the life of people just have to accept who I am. And in all reality, the person who I was then was just, not really taking in consideration anybody else's, thoughts or feelings. And I didn't know what a high D meant at the time coming here. I'm just running over people and trying to get things done as fast as possible. And I'm like, y'all are just slow. Until I educated myself on that, then I could communicate with everybody.
Yeah.
But before then, I can tell you, there was a lot of people that was like, man, he's just he's hard to work with.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that was me expecting everybody else to adapt to me.
I think that's a perfect example of like, we're not changing that about you. It's always going to be you're who you are at the core. But what you have done is, okay, I'm sitting across from a high S. We might need to have a little conversation here first. I'm sitting across from a high seat, whatever. They're going to be asking a lot of questions. I think that's where, going back to, it's not that you have changed. It's that you've learned the skills that make you a better communicator.
It has taken 15 or 20 years of practice, and I'm still not good at it. So if somebody is not practicing it at all, I imagine they're not very good at all.
Yeah.
Because it's taken me 15 or 20 years to really, sit back and listen and be aware of the moment of who I'm talking to. Mm-hmm. And if it's, a million things going on, sometimes I have to tell myself, hey, remember, where you are, who you're talking to, and it's being in the moment. Like, when I'm in the moment, that's about the only time I'm in the moment. Mm-hmm. Anytime you see me walking around, I'm a month out, 3 months out, 6 months out. It's hard for me to come back in the moment, and it's a struggle. But it's not something that just all of a sudden happened. Mm-hmm. It takes practice.
Yeah, I think about, so I sent Brandon the email. So here's what we usually do for a guest host podcast. We do a little bit of news, so come prepared. Also a topic that you want to... So my email, Hi C, is paragraphs long, and I loved your response. The first sentence was like, I appreciate you sending this email.
Oh, how kind. You wouldn't have seen that a few years back.
This is me trying to meet you at your S level. I really appreciate you sending this email. I will not be
preparing.
I will not be preparing.
Well,
also, do I look like the person that has a top 5 song playlist?
But I saw that. I saw it. There was one sentence there that said, I really appreciate you sending this email. And I know that that's what it was. It's an attempt at saying, I appreciate this about you. I'm not going to come prepared with all of these items that you've asked for. And I also probably in my heart of hearts knew that was going to be the response.
But you had to give it a shot anyway.
Yep. So I think that's the thing. That to me was such a great example of I'm trying to meet you halfway with this, but at the end of the day, this is still how I show up.
Yep. And see, y'all know me though. Mm-hmm. Right? And if we didn't have that relationship, I wouldn't have responded. Like, I'm very mindful of trying to respond over email, because it usually what hits my desk is stuff that people shouldn't be upset about because they read a tone wrong or exclamation mark wrong. And
right.
I'm like, man, we're really getting upset over an email. So if it was somebody that I didn't know very well, I would probably go over and talk to them and say, now I know you want me to come prepared for this, but here you got to meet me halfway. Like, I'll show up. That's my preparedness.
Yes.
I'll be there.
I'll have plenty to say.
But because if you didn't know me and you were brand new, how detrimental would that have been to an employee?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And you have to be very mindful of that.
Yeah.
You have to be mindful of, does this person know me? Do they know, my characteristics? Do they know my joking style? Mm-hmm. You have to be able to adapt to that. Mm-hmm. Because if that would have been a 2-day employee, I don't think they would be up here talking to me right now.
Right.
Somebody's running a podcast. They've been here for a week. And they're like, we need the president to please prepare for this. I'm not preparing for that. Who is this guy?
Well, and the other reason is I don't like to prepare, whether it's as much as like a departmental meeting or even this, only because I'm an open book. Mm-hmm. Right? There's nothing that you can ask me that I'm not going to be able to spit out real quick and it be what I believe or what I think. Like, it's an open book, so I don't need to prepare questions that I'm going to give you an answer to that I think you would like. I'm going to answer it whether you like it or not. But I do think that my values, my beliefs, what I want for this place, what I want for every individual, all comes from a good place, and that's why I'm so confident in it.
Yeah.
Is because there's not one bad thing in my body that is wanting anything but the good for people here. I mean, that's it. So it's easy to talk about. Very easy.
Yep. Okay. Speaking of being fast, these are never fast, but we have questions that we ask every guest host, and so we're going to ask them to you as well. Maybe they will go faster. They usually don't. Okay, are you ready? Mm-hmm. Have you heard these before?
Nope.
Okay. All right, here we go. So we call these our rapid fire questions. The first one is a fill in the blank. Morris-Jenkins is...
Awesome.
Fantastic. What is something that people often get wrong about you?
I have hair.
What? Okay.
I knew it was gonna.
We're gonna post a picture of him sitting on the chair, and then we're gonna post a current picture. I don't even think you had hair back then.
Yeah, no.
He has
Yes,
no
I
hair by
did.
choice.
Oh,
you
my.
did not. You had hair on your face.
Now
just
we're
like
gonna
you did.
argue about it because I had hair until
You had fuzz.
I had hair.
Okay.
No, what was the? You know how I operate. I'm gonna be a quick, and I'm gonna throw you off.
So it's
What was the ones that they don't know about me? Is that what?
what is something that people often get wrong
They
about
get wrong
you?
about you.
Oh Lord! Even yesterday, the intimidation piece. I think because of my title, and I walk around here quickly. Noah comes in, and then Andrew comes in after him, and he said, "I saw Noah in here," and he said, "Also didn't really want to come in here." And I said, "Why?" He's like, I don't know, intimidation. Like, and I said, "From what?" And I think sometimes when I'm walking down the hall, and when you see me, I'm constantly thinking that can come across sometimes like I'm not approachable.
Yeah.
I'm very approachable. Mm-hmm. Very.
Yeah, I mean, I can speak to that myself. That 2 years ago, no way in the world would I be sitting in here asking you questions and having this conversation. I wouldn't have. I know that. I mean, it wasn't because of anything that you did. It was just like that's one thing I really had to work on is like, okay, this not gonna work. So I'm gonna have to figure out how to navigate this differently. Like I said, I don't think it was anything that you did. Maybe it is the title. Maybe it's like, oh, he's too busy for me, like that kind of thing. But every single time I've asked for your time, you've given it to me. So it's like, I don't know why.
He's so approachable to the point where you have people that don't know him all that well or well enough to be like, okay, we have to go play pranks on people. And I'm like, I saw them going down the hall. Which truck is Brandon's? I'm like, I'm just going to go ahead I'm going to go ahead and say that this is a bad idea. This is a really bad idea. They're like, it'll be fine. I'm like, okay, good luck. But I'm not telling you which truck is his. Somehow I'll get involved in that. I don't want to do
I'm
that.
not feeling the repercussions
I've seen
of
it
this.
all. And I've seen not very much either. And I'm scared.
Keep my name out of it.
Yeah.
Okay, next one. What's the last show you binge watched and love? Real Housewives.
Yeah. Oh well, that's not. No, honestly, I don't watch a lot of TV. But the only show that I've really gotten into is Yellowstone.
Oh yeah.
And I mean, that's like the gist of my TV problem.
Yeah, great
If you
choice.
catch me watching TV, it's gonna be. I mean, I watched the new World War II documentary because it was on in color. Mm-hmm. And Jamie comes home like, "What are you watching?"
An old man on the couch.
But usually it's because I'm filling in time. I got 30 minutes. I'm waiting on this to get done, and I'll turn it on. And I don't like sitcoms. Big Bang Theory, watch that a little bit every once in a while. But the most recent one's Yellowstone.
Yeah.
Brandon's sitting on the couch with his Pedialyte and his old man smoking jacket watching the show. All right, next question. Give us a concert you'll never forget.
Oh, Luke Combs. That was a recent one. Phenomenal show here in Charlotte. But Lainey Wilson was there with them, and there was a huge storm.
Oh.
All of her computer stuff, guitars, amplifiers got struck by lightning.
Oh, no.
So she had to come out, just with her guitar, and she sang guitar. But then with Luke Combs, it got delayed. And you're not supposed to play past midnight, I think, in Charlotte, maybe 11. I don't remember the time. And he got a delay because of the rain. And I was talking to one of the security people, and they said his fine is going to be massive tonight. And Luke said, I'm playing. And Luke paid. He paid for the fine.
Wow.
And he put on an incredible show.
Huh.
Just the amount of people there, the energy.
Yeah.
It was good.
Yeah.
I love it. Okay, what's your favorite meal?
I don't have one. I'm not a foodie.
He hardly eats anything.
What is the deal with beaver butt?
That's Starburst.
Okay.
So me and Randy were going to Austin, Texas,
I knew this came from you.
and beaver secretion.
Sorry. Randy, he seems to always be.
You didn't think you'd hear that word
We're on the plane, and we're waiting for him to come on, and of course he's delayed, and he had to go get his big bag of candy, and he sits down beside me, and I look at it, and it just, I don't know how I found this article, and I don't know where it popped up on. Maybe I was reading the news, but there was a whole article about beaver secretion and how it's used in candy. It's used in M&Ms, it's used in Skittles, and it's used in Starburst. So Randy sits down, and I had went ahead and pulled up the article, and the whole time we're flying, Randy, it's like he's like a chain smoker with Starburst, or candy. It's just one after another. So I saw him finish the bag, so then I just handed him the article after he finished the bag. And he's like, what? So he just ate a bag of beaver secretion. But that's where it comes from. So I do not eat that candy, I can tell you that.
I think Shallon got you that gift whenever it was the operations dinner, and she got him a whole bunch of Starburst and sprinkled it in the bag. He's like, I'm not eating that.
No.
Was this the same trip that we were driving,
yes,
as me and you,
us.
and we pulled Randy's shirt off in the car and act like we threw it out the window?
Yeah, how does Randy keep coming up?
But as far as food, I will grill steaks or something. I'm not a big, I don't eat sweets. I mean, if you see me eating sweets, it's probably ice cream or something every once in a while, but I don't snack. Like if I'm going to eat a meal, I'm a fruit, vegetable, meat. That's about it. And I'm on about every other day right now, eating.
Gosh.
I would be so hungry. I'm hungry right now.
Your bodies do not need as much volume as what we think. But
I do agree with that.
Yeah.
I would be so
However,
I tell you
I'm
what.
going to eat anyway.
However, I'm still thinking about the sushi that Mark talked about in the last episode.
A few errors in judgment every day.
Everybody starts hiding their bags of candy that sit on top of their desk.
Yeah.
Brandon's coming. Next question. Give us a snapshot of an ordinary moment in your life that brought you great joy.
An ordinary moment?
Ordinary moment that brought you great joy.
See, this one's a tough for me. This is one of my big weaknesses. I have a very, very high expectation for myself, which that ultimately, is a high expectation for anybody around me. So those little ordinary things aren't necessarily something that I see in celebration. It's kind of like expected. So for me, it's not. That's one of the ones I'm still working on. Like taking that ordinary thing that was, something that was maybe not so big to me, but maybe to big to somebody else. It takes something huge for me to really get excited.
Do you feel like there's something on maybe not the work side, but family side that is an ordinary moment day to day that you're just like, man, that's special?
Every day I come home. I mean, we'll have to do another whole podcast to get to know what my home life is like. But typically we go home and I got the kids there, and then usually they got the football team, or there's always people there.
Yeah.
And for me, it's coming home and seeing that our kids still want to be there. But like Ella the other day told me, she said, Dad, I don't want to be like one of these teenagers at school. She said, I want our kids to come over to the house, and I want them to be the role model. I want to show them what a true role model is. not the way the 10th graders are, 11th graders, and they're vaping and everything else. She says, I want to bring people over here to the game and show people that you can have fun without doing all that other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and for me, those are the happy moments of knowing that the 15 years of, you know, me kind of, if you ask my wife, I literally just got told the other day, quit talking to us like an employees. And what I mean by that is that when I say make people better at home and they'll be better at work, that's what I've done for 15 years, is try to apply the fundamentals of conflict and human behavior and all that stuff at home. And to hear that, you know, from Ella, you know, it's a very proud moment.
Sounds like it's paid off.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Even though it might have been painful.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of it's painful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, last one. What is one thing you are deeply grateful for right now?
Opportunity. Really, this place, and I don't know if I'll ever be able to articulate it the way I want to. That so many people come in this door, and there's a lot of people that leave. But the ones that stay are the ones that have an opportunity to even get here. What kills me is that are they seeing that opportunity? Because I do see it. So every day I come to work, I see like this place is providing so many opportunities for people. That's what I'm grateful for, because it's not just for me, right? It's for everybody else. And honestly, that's what I want to keep creating, right? More and more opportunities for people that say, hey, I want to do something. I want to take on more responsibility. I want to do more. And those will be for the people that put in that hard work. You know, so I'm grateful for this place that allows it for all of us to even sit right now.
Yeah,
you know?
absolutely.
There's so many other heating and air companies or trade companies or outside of our industry that if they saw 3 people, and if you saw me sitting in a corner in this puny chair, all of you would laugh. But to have 3 people spending time in here and the organization be okay with it.
Yeah.
Because of a lot of times when the organization, you know, when they see an area kind of slump or kind of, you know, maybe hurting somewhere, typically the organization gets jerked around by the management team or owners. And for here, I feel like that no matter what's going on, whether it's outside the walls of Morris-Jenkins or inside the walls, we kind of get to be ourselves, and we get to do what we want to do.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm grateful for that too.
Well, I'm grateful for that, and I'm grateful for. I know you've been in this particular role not very long, but I know you've been doing a lot within the organization, dual roles over many of the different roles that you've had. But the opportunities you've created for a lot of people and the encouragement you've given, it's paid its dues in so many different people that are here. So we really appreciate you.
Yep. Your name comes up a lot on this podcast.
That's, well, I don't know if that's good or bad, but so y'all have all of your scripted questions because these 2 high C's come prepared, and I have 0 preparedness. What's the one question that either one of you have always wanted to ask or that you've been curious about? I'm an open book.
There's quite a few on here that I didn't write down, actually, that I was asking you along the way.
I think mine, I did have this one down but didn't ask, is what's your biggest fear?
Now you're going to get deep.
This is rapid fire question number 7.
No, it's really not. It's you know, when I made the comment yesterday that when I heard Jim Rohn say protect all the good that you've created in your life, for me it's not necessarily like losing it in the moment or anything else. I know that everybody here is on point A to point B. That's our journey. And for me, it's like, you know, what does that journey entail? And my biggest fear, obviously, is for my kids, you know, for that journey. Because, I mean, you look around organizations, you look, you know, what are they going to get into? So my biggest fear for them is that, you know, they get in a situation, you know, that they can't get out of. Because I'm very protective. I mean, it may not seem that way, but I'm very protective on the decisions I make, the things I fight for. All of that is usually for whether it's people here or it's at home. You know, and I hate seeing people get hurt, whether it's emotionally, physically, any of that. Like I always feel like I want to protect, so I'm constantly walking around like, how can I protect these people? So that's my biggest fear, is like somebody gets hurt under my watch.
Yeah.
And it's not always physical.
Yeah. No, I can see that. I felt like I heard that message yesterday. I feel like, recognizing, because I think in the day to day, it's easy to come in on the day to day and not think about that, how everybody goes home at the end of the day.
Yep.
I think it's just we get caught in the today and the today and the today and today, and then it's a bunch of todays.
Yep.
But at the end of the day, really thinking about the impact that we do have on the people here and at home.
People here, people at home, that's constantly on my mind. We have we're at 600 employees. Mm-hmm. And my goal is everybody goes home, they're happy, they're motivated, they're excited, they love coming to work. My fear is that we have people going home that is not that. Yeah. Right? They're frustrated, and I can't stand to even think that we're sending people home with that. Because that it's a point of failure. Yeah. And that for me hurts. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's my fear.
Yeah. I don't have this down, but I think maybe this is just me. But I see people like yourself or Mark or Adrian where, I see that they have great talents and I'm like, man, I wish I had that talent. Mark is fantastic at building relationships. Adrian has tons of talents. I said on the podcast before, I love her positivity. I mean, I don't know that I don't know if I could get her to complain about stuff. Like, she's constantly positive. Do you feel like there's something that if you could add one talent to your bucket, what would it be?
Listening. Because even while you're sitting there asking the question, I was thinking of something else. Mm-hmm. Because that's how my brain works. You said something about Adrian, and I'm thinking about that piece, and that's just my mind is constantly going, and that is the one weakness of mine that I can't turn it off. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So I'm always listening to understand, but a lot of times I get my ideas, and I get I feel like one of my best talents is using everybody else's brain. Mm-hmm. Because that's how a lot of stuff gets done, right? If you get everybody in a room and everybody's saying something, my mind's turning, and I might miss other stuff. So for me, it's listening, being in the moment. Mm-hmm. Jim Rohn always said, you read the cover of the book, and it was called Be There. And when he talks about be there, he's talking about where he used to go on the beach all the time with his family, and he was thinking of work. Mm-hmm. When he's at work, he was thinking of, man, I can't wait to get back to the beach. Mm-hmm. And I don't necessarily have that hard time. I'm not at work or I'm not at the beach. I'm thinking, of progress forward, whether it's better schedules for people, any type of improvement. That's how my mind works. Mm-hmm. We can always improve things.
Do you find that when you're doing things like outside of work with the family, that being that far forward, is that a struggle point for you, of being present in the moment with your family, like if you guys don't go on vacation or anything like that?
No, it's usually more work, because at work, that's where ideas are coming. I'm hearing stuff, we're strategizing and all that stuff. Typically when I'm with the family, I don't really have a hard time with that. Yeah. My escape is a couple days a week. If I need to, I'll go get in the vehicle and I might drive around for 2 hours. Mm. That's my thinking. You get me in the vehicle and turn on the radio, I don't hear a word of it. And that's where I come up with our first custom schedules. That's where a lot of my good ideas come from, because I'm just thinking and thinking and thinking. So typically driving down to the beach with the kids or something like that, they're got their headbuds on, and I'm just sitting there thinking. And it's not all about work, right? I'm thinking about our family. What's it going to be for this year in 2025? See, my kids are just getting at the age of 15 and 14, where they're about to be introduced to setting their goals for the whole year. And, that's just how my mind works. What's going to happen for me and my family in 2025, which in turn, if I'm living in the future with me and my family, I have no choice but to live there with the Morris-Jenkins too. Right. I learned a long time ago, it is very hard being two different people. All right. Sometimes people show up at work and that's one person, and then they go home and it's another person. It's exhausting. Yep. Mm-hmm. So what I feel like I've gotten better at is doing both at home. Mm-hmm. Forward thinking at home, forward thinking, here at work.
There's consistency in that.
Yeah. Yep. And what a great model, also too, for your kids. I mean, I think that's...
They're 14 and 15. They hate it.
Oh, I'm sure they're not welcoming that with open arms.
Yep, I'm going to go home today and say we're about to do our goal setting
I'm
session.
so glad we're doing this, Dad. Thank you so much.
Ella's actually been good at it for a while because Jamie's a teacher and the whole vision casting and all that stuff. So it's just that we got to realign her goals to reality from a 15-year-old. So, no, they've... I can tell you what's unique in my time being here at work is really watching my kids from birth until where they are today, is that the things that we are taught here, the things in the fundamentals, just the way we operate here, me taking it at home, and I really have like just applied it at work with conflict, and they know their disc style, they understand other people when they're in conflict at high school or conflict in middle school. They'll come home and talk to me about it. Ella will say, she was a high D and she was just bam, bam, bam. I've really seen them evolve much higher than other kids. Because Ella's sitting there saying, you're a high D. And these other kids are like, I don't even know what you're talking about.
I can see Brandon sitting there when she comes home and says that, and the Grinch emoji where it's just like the little smile keeps curling. He's like, it's working.
My heart grew, what does he say? My heart grew three times its size.
Yeah.
Well, for me, it's more or less preparing them for the things that they're going to be faced with.
Yeah.
And if they can get a jump on human behavior, understanding people's motivators and signs that people give, just how they walk, how they talk, any of that. It's already, helping them.
Man, can you imagine what kids would be like if they were taught conflict management, human behavior, finances, just in school alone?
Yeah. Well, we talk about how most people are not ever taught how to handle conflict. They have no skills besides avoidance. I mean, myself included.
They absorb with their parents, how they behave.
That's right. And most of us don't have any skills at all.
No. Maybe on the next podcast, I'll tell you the story that my daughter's going through right now because she has a project as an entrepreneur and she's running a salon.
Oh.
Yeah. Let's just say me and her professor see business completely different.
Oh, fantastic. That'll be on the next one. Well, our final, this one's actually on the fly to your top 5 song playlist.
I don't have a top 5. So one of the questions they asked me, what's my top 5? I love music. Absolutely love music. But I love such a broad, spectrum of music.
Yeah, like a Renaissance man.
It doesn't have to be country. It doesn't have to be, pop or whatever.
You were talking about your love of death metal before the start of the podcast today.
Rob listens to this stuff that, if you ever take me to the Smash Room or wherever y'all go, that axe throwing place or whatever it is that y'all break stuff, then I'll put my earbuds in and I'll listen to that and start smashing stuff.
What sound was that?
That's what it all sounds like.
I'm pretty sure they were playing Sarah McLachlan there when
They
we were
might
there
have been.
with that little kid.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I do think it's so interesting to me that we have people who come on the podcast that it's like Mark. He gave us like 10 songs when the assignment was 5. And then there are some people who are like, okay, well, this is what I like to listen to when I do this. This is what I like to listen to when I do this. It's just so interesting to me. You are the first person who has said, nope.
I'll tell you this, that the 15 years, 20 years of literally, trying to apply yourself, I don't watch TV like everybody else. And if I listen to the radio, it's not because I'm truly listening to the radio. So for me, it's almost habit now. That whenever I go home, I'm not wanting to watch TV. And if I sit down and watch a show, I don't know what the heck's going anyway because I missed 15 years of it.
Yep.
How about this? What are the 5 things that have been most beneficial for you as far as if it's a book or if it's been a podcast? We'll go ahead and put the Jim Rohn Weekend Seminar on there. That'll be number 1. What will be the other 4?
The 4 things that I would say help my success or help my, who I am today. Yeah. It's really, so you got Jim Rohn, and then number 2 is going to be the people that I was raised around. Not raised as a young kid, but once I got here. See, when I got here, I was still 23 years old, hanging out with, a lot of people that I knew from the small town, high school, and everything else. And I recognized that I need to separate. And I haven't talked to that group in 20 years. And when I quit talking to that group, I was only surrounded around Dewey, Dave Hearn, David Smith, like people around here. And after that, I started getting more exposure to other companies and other owners and all that. So I will tell you that you absolutely become the 5 people you hang around. And when I first heard that from Jim Rome, I looked at my 5 and I was like, holy moly, I don't want to be like them, even though I liked hanging out with them. You do start to pick up their habits. You do start to pick up their demeanors. You kind of see what works, what doesn't. So for me, probably I was 25, 26, I really started to try to find people that were doing things better than me. And it just happened to be, it wasn't my group. They weren't doing better than me. So,
what about books?
Books, there's The Last Lecture. And I just bought another set of 10 copies. That's the one book that typically if somebody says, hey, what did you start reading that changed your life? And it didn't necessarily change my life. It made me think different. And if somebody has read it, it really puts life into perspective of things that, we get upset about and we shouldn't. And the reason why I carry it is because that's kind of my test. Is it somebody that, is going to push strings or am I going to pull strings? What are they going to do with it? So that one for me was one of the first ones that kind of gave me a wake-up call.
Yep.
And, point A to point B, that point B is different for everybody.
Yep.
Yeah. Absolutely.
What about podcasts? Do you listen to anything like that now?
Jim Rohn. It's funny because I sent an episode yesterday to some people, and he says, I'm going to make myself better in the year 1999 and in 2000 and 2001. And I think for me, not getting too broad on who I listen to, I think that's where a lot of confusion comes in sometimes. Sometimes people will say things a little bit different, but it's confusing sometimes when you have so many options.
Yeah.
So I haven't really branched out because even listening to Jim Rohn after 15 years, I listened to him on the way home last night, and I picked up 4 different things, and I've heard it, a million times.
Yeah.
So for me, I've never been the one to move on to something else until I've gotten everything out of it I can.
Yeah.
And 15 years later, I haven't gotten everything I can out of Jim Rohn's teachings.
Yeah. Because different things hit you differently at different places in your life.
There were so many things that I heard 10 years ago that I was not ready for.
Yeah.
Yep.
They didn't mean as much to me then. I wasn't educated to understand. Now that I have a little bit different experience and I've knowledge has gotten a little bit more, it means something different now.
Yeah.
And I can apply it differently now.
Well, it's just like, we've talked about it on the training team. I know you've talked about it with the operations and tactical team. Going to classes and reading the book is one piece, but it is not where the magic happens. You have to go out and apply it. And even First Break All the Rules, great book, get all the points, not easy to apply. Like you have to practice and practice and practice. And that's only one part of our fundamentals that we look at.
It's one part, and I think if anything needs to be clear on this podcast is that I think whether they look at me or look at you two, people will look at people in positions and they'll say, that's just who they are, that's who they've been, and that's who they're going to stay. But in reality, who I am today, you'll see a different Brandon in 5 years. I will get better at presenting. I will get better in, the things that I haven't done in a while. I'm going to keep getting better. And that's so true for every position here, right? If they're struggling in as a tech, or they're struggling as a CSR, or they're struggling anywhere else. I had a conversation with a tech yesterday about this. There's no reason why they can't hone in their skills, right? There's 16 hours in a day to become a better tech. There's 16 hours in the day to become a better dispatcher. There's 16 hours in the day to become a better CSR. I have to do it. If I don't continue to get better, the organization suffers. But here's where everybody's confused. If everybody else doesn't do it either, the organization still suffers. And that's the main thing that I want to get people. You don't have to wait till the next level. You don't have to wait until something else happens. You need to start honing in that craft and that skill every day, regardless of what it is.
Do it now.
Be a tech. Be the best tech that there is out there. Don't start on anything else until you've mastered that piece. And too often are people coming and looking and saying, what else can I do? And have you mastered that first? And a lot of times, no. We get too far ahead of ourselves. We struggle with the delayed gratification. Putting in the hard work and waiting on it. Putting in the hard work and waiting on it. It just doesn't come natural to everybody. It was not natural to me. And it took a lot of studying.
After 15, 20 years of listening to Jim Rohn, it's those little things, and it's like, have you mastered all that stuff yet? Nope. Picked up 4 more last night. Heard it 3,000 times. Just picked it up.
Right. If it ain't broke, if Jim Rohn ain't broke, then don't fix it.
Well, when does it stop, though? When does lifelong learning stop?
Yeah.
It either has stopped a long time ago for people, and they'll pick it back up, or they'll never pick it up.
Lifelong learning hasn't stopped. You've stopped.
That's right.
Yeah.
And in order to, have a long, flourished life, whether it's in relationships or anything, a lot of times everything comes back to money for people. Unfortunately, we do live in the world where things cost money. Me and you had a conversation about this because you said I'm not a money person. And then I had to ask you the right questions. And you love travel and memories.
Yep.
Takes money.
Yep.
So in order to take more trips and have those memories, if you become educated in money, right, it'll help with that as well.
Yeah, it is. All the resources are at our disposal.
Yep.
It's just whether we decide to take advantage.
That's right.
Yep. The opportunities are there.
Yeah. I think all those opportunities are right in front of us, and just in the stuff that we've heard today, I think every single person can go back and listen to this over and over again, because there's so many great wisdom nuggets that you've learned, and we haven't even scratched the surface.
Yep.
No, I'm a unique person. There's a lot to uncover.
We know that.
Well, don't worry. We're going to get you back on the schedule.
We know that. Hey, Brandon, we just want to say thanks for coming, spending time. We know you have a busy schedule, but you always make time for things that are important. So we appreciate you making this important.
Well, thank you for making it so comfortable in this corner and little chair.
Well, maybe there will be a slight improvement the next time.
We'll be back.
There's a pad over there behind you.
We'll be back, and we'll have it set up better in 2025.
Sounds fantastic.
where you can watch us in all of our interactions here. Yeah, I do. I have really appreciated. It feels like over the past 2 days, I've learned more about Brandon Anderson than I ever knew in all the years before. But I really appreciate that. I think that's really cool for all of us, to get to know you that way as a person. And I just think it's really nice to have someone who's open and willing to show. I put my iron pants on just like everybody else does every day.
One leg at a time, one stiff leg at a time.
No, that's right.
And if you want to figure out how much of just a person, I know you said he's not a person, but a person that Brandon is, if you want to come play a prank on him, you're more than welcome to.
Yeah.
You'll get a close relationship real quick.
I welcome it.
That's right. That's right. You're taking your life into your own hands. Yep. All right. Well, that's it, folks. We hope you have enjoyed our last podcast of 2024. Thank you so much for being with us, Brandon. Follow Easy Does It on Apple or Spotify so you never miss an episode. Thanks for listening, everybody. We'll see you in 2025. Happy holidays and peace, love, and Easy Does It.
I appreciate y'all.